Hello everybody, I'm Wasaam and you are watching Beyond the Billboard presented by the 4As. It's our third episode, and as if you've been following our series so far, this series is about the local advertising industry and the people in it. So if you've liked the content that we've been putting so far, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss anything out in the future. Now, today's guest is somebody who has just been specializing in the creative industry, not just here in Sri Lanka, but someone who has also made waves overseas. But before I introduce our special guest today, I want to put a quick shout out to our sponsors. Our episode sponsor for this episode is Fems. Our production partner is Hype Media Network, and they are the ones who are recording this entire series of Beyond the Billboard and putting it together. So they specialize in film production, animation, they do influencer management, and they also specialize in TikTok videos. So if you do want to get in touch with them for any work, you can just call them up on the phone number which is on the screen right now. Our creative partner is Loops Integrated, and our location partner is Triad, and that's where we're shooting today. So, as I mentioned, our guest is somebody who has been specializing in the creative field in advertising, and he's someone who has 25 years of experience, and he's someone who's been in agencies like McCann Erickson, Phoenix Ogilvy, Leo Burnett, and also been in Mullenlow, Thailand. He is the co-founder of Cine Colombo and the founder of DigiCandy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've guessed it already, we have Ransley Burrows. Hey Ransley, how's it going?
Going good, Wasaam. Thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure to have you here, Ransley. I hope you loosen up a bit because, just before the episode I did tell you that I feel like Ransley over the years you've gotten more serious. So I'd like to see, the quirky side of Ransley a little bit more today.
I think that is part of when you get old and become, every year you kind of lose the noise levels. So I remember starting out listening to a lot of heavy metal, and throughout the years now you get into most of the, slower, mellow beats. So
Right.
I'm kind of...
But one thing's not changed, right? You still come a little late, no, for everything?
as fashionably late as possible.
Even for this episode.
yes. That's something that might not change. It doesn't change.
Why is it that people think that people in advertising are always late?
Well, I think John Cleese does a nice explanation of the creatives, the creative process itself, and it's because most of everyone is creative. First of all, let me get that out there straight. I mean, we are carbon copies, or we are made from the image of our maker, and our maker is the most creative person. So we are all creative. So if anyone is telling you that, you have to compartmentalize that this is the creative department and this other department is not creative, I would say that's wrong. Everyone is creative. So I think being creative is something that all human beings love.
Actually, even I used to tell my team, right, creativity can come from anyone, even the janitor.
Absolutely.
Right, from the bottom to the very top, anyone can come up with an idea that's good enough to change the world.
Absolutely, because from the time you wake up to when you decide what you're going to wear, how you want to comb your hair, or even if you decide that, okay, I want to make an omelette, so that itself is creative. And I think creativity is about play, and sometimes you don't want to settle on the first idea, so you take a lot of time to let inspiration hit you. So the process itself is you are kind of absorbed in whatever you're doing. Even if if you're cooking, you want to spend a bit of time to think what you're going to cook, what are the ingredients you need to get, and how are you going to make it a little bit different. So there's a bit of pondering there, and that takes a bit of time. So sometimes you might catch someone who is in thought, or who is doing something not very mindful, because that person is thinking, So I guess this happens a lot. So I actually stop along the way when I come, take a drive. Sometimes I might see something and I stop, or I'm curious, or I talk to somebody, which I'm, that journey itself is full of little nuggets that you want to absorb, because as creative people, we need to be curious about life. So I think that curiosity sometimes kills the cat.
The cat. So, what are your biggest achievements as an ad man?
Okay, so I think advertising. When we look at advertising per se, I always look at it in a way that yes, I mean, you're passionate about what you're doing, but you also should not take it too seriously, I believe. Because end of the day,
Like you're doing now as you get older.
yes. So at end of the day, you are, if you look at an ad on TV, you come on TV and you basically disturb people, and then you tell them, listen, hey, buy this product or use my service, and it's really better. End of the day, you're kind of like a salesman coming in and interrupting people's lives, and people don't care and don't want to be disturbed by salespeople or advertising people. So I think we shouldn't take advertising too seriously. Whilst we can be passionate about what we are doing, we just need to understand that to people, advertising is not important, or it's not something that they wait for unless we make it that way. So that's why it's important that when we do disturb people, we better have something good to say
Good to say.
that is helpful to them, that will entertain them and leave them with a smile, because hey, come on, we're disturbing them. So I think having that feeling of it's an interruption, let's say something that they will be like, hey, I like these guys. They disturbed me, but I like what they're saying. That's useful for me. So I think you just need to understand that and not, take it too seriously. So I don't really, I'm not proud in that sense of a particular piece, because I do believe that, there's still a lot more that we can do. And I'm, this whole thing of pursuit of divine discontent, as David Ogilvy said, never be happy with what you've done. So I believe there's a lot more that I can do.
Right. Okay. Okay. Also, now your background as a creative, right? You, I think, identify yourself as a writer. People say creative writer, people say copywriter, then there are content writers, and I also feel that when you put this term out there, there's a misconception amongst people about what the job of a writer is. Some people think ඔය ගිලාර website එකකට නැත්නම් leaflet එකකට copy ලියන පොරක්, right? But I also feel that people don't really understand the gamut of how important this role is in a very strategic setting, right? Could you maybe, in your experience, elaborate what in advertising, what is the job of a writer?
Okay, so I think if you're specifically looking at advertising per se, there are two main disciplines or talents. One is the writer, the other is the designer. So it's like Paul McCartney and John Lennon. So Paul and John, Paul is the basically the musician. He gives you the melody, and John is the guy who gives you the lyrics. So the writer. So I think if you look at writing, you might be a very good writer, right? Which is needed, but you need to understand that you are an applied writer, in the sense there's pure maths, there's applied maths. I don't know how it is now, I'm dating myself, right? But you're applying your skill set to advertising. So then the key thing that writers need to understand is they can't just look at themselves as, I'm going to just write stuff now. No, I need to be an autodidact. I need to be a person who, when I get a brief, I need to be an expert in that particular brand or that problem. So I do research. So I have a research component to it. I need to understand who am I talking to, right? So I need to be curious about how this works when it comes to my target audience. How can I get into their minds, So there's a bit of a psychological aspect to it, you know. So then when I do that, how do I get my message across in a way that is not boring but fresh and interesting? So, and I need to understand that the business, when it comes to advertising and writing, is about ideas, right? So it's, you have to be at the core. A writer has to have the ability to connect all these elements with a big idea, right? So if you look at yourself as somebody who comes up with ideas to solve branding, client, marketing problems, right? That's when you start to grow in this industry. So you got to look at yourself as an ideas person.
Right. Okay. Could you tell us, our viewers, right? Because your name, Ransley, is a name that has been thrown around the industry a lot, right? It's, I mean, people have heard of you.
Like a rag,
Yeah,
a
well,
wet blanket.
I mean, you've been called to judge several competitions,
Sure.
several awards like Effie's. You've been called for the masterclasses, which the industry has done. People have looked up to you as somebody who has not just practiced advertising here in Sri Lanka, but also overseas. But I think people would really like to know a piece that you are proud of, or something you have been the mastermind of in your career of 25 years. Maybe one thing that you're super proud of, which you have been the creative genius behind.
Yeah, I think it also connects to the question that you asked me before of an achievement or something that.
Yeah, so because at that point, what I was looking for was achievements could have been, okay, I won this particular award, or,
Yeah.
I've been,
So,
you know.
so that is there, and
But
yes,
what I really want to know is
it's,
a campaign that you've
yeah.
really been proud of.
So I think just the when it comes to something that you know that I'm really proud of, or I was. Let me just start by saying the first thing is that as when you're in Sri Lanka, this whole thing for youngsters, you want to work overseas, right? And this is a very small pool. I mean, we are big fish in a small pond. So I think during when I was in my mid 30s, I decided, listen, I want to know whether I could take on a bigger pond, right? That's when I looked overseas, and that whole process itself of getting a gig overseas, being confident that somebody would hire you from a foreign country, is a huge thing. And for me, lining up interviews in Singapore, looking for jobs, and getting a job in Thailand. You focus on Singapore, you get a job in Thailand.
I just want to add one thing there, right? Because Mario de Soyza, your colleague, said, Machan, Ransley went to Thailand and came back really thin. So I don't know what to
Yes.
take out of that.
Yes, so that is that's a journey. So yes, that's a journey. So the whole thing of getting that job is an achievement for me, right? And I would like to tell all the youngsters or whoever who
You did
is.
deflect my question, right? As to what you went and did in Thailand.
Yeah, I will get to that as well. But let
But
me,
okay,
yeah,
let's move on.
I'll
Let's
get to that.
continue.
Yeah, so I think that is, I mean, that is most definitely something that is really possible. And we know not just me, but there are so many other people as well in the industry who moved on, who are doing absolutely successful in other countries in the industry. So, guys, it's all about focusing on ideas, getting your portfolio together, and then just reaching for the stars.
All right. But
So
is,
that's something
yeah.
that's one thing that I would
But
mention
if
that
you
I'm
could
proud
maybe
of.
also very briefly mention a piece you've done.
Yes, I'm
Isuru
getting to that.
Malinga.
Yeah, getting to that. So
Briefly.
yeah, briefly. Yeah, exactly. So so the other thing I want to talk to everybody about is how is about love. This episode should be about love, I believe, right? Because I think love is an integral part of whatever we do, not just as human beings, but even in our careers. Love or passion, I would like to call it love, and I'm calling it mad love. So in the word mad love, there is ad love in it if you are in advertising, but mad love is bigger, right? Mad love. So I'm looking at whenever I feel proud of something, I've noticed that I've had this truly madly deeply love, like insanely crazy love when it comes to projects. So I would give you an example of how when I was building a house, right? I took a loan, and then I came up with this idea for a NGO. Say it was what was the NGO? World Vision, right? So back in the days during the war and all that, right? We kind of got to know that, you know, I mean, I was doing some research, and there were kids who were so used to, you know, gunfire, explosions, that sometimes, you know, it becomes the white noise that helps them sleep. So I came up with this script where you have a baby in a makeshift cloth, you know, swing or rocker, right, in a cradle, sorry, and that kid, you might sing a lullaby, your mother singing a lullaby, but the kid is crying, right?
Right.
So then when the kid hears sound effects of gunfire, that's the white noise that puts the baby to sleep. So I was, you know, I shared this idea with World Vision, and the client loved it. We didn't have any money, right? I believed in the idea so much, it was mad love, that I took the money that, you know, I was going to my mom's place, my mom's upstairs roof. I remember back in the days it was something like 500,000. I spoke to one of my good friends who has a production company, Rajitha, and said, "Listen, guys, Rajitha, I really believe in this. Let's do this." So then, you know, Rajitha ended up, you know, saying, "Let's do it." Kept the cost low. Got Ranga SB, who is one of Sri Lanka's #1 DOPs, and we just, you know, went in there. We shot the commercial. That's mad love, right? To a point where you do stuff where you decide to do guerrilla advertising, you know, because you want to do a script where you know how it is when you get into a trishaw, or you stop a trishaw and you say you want to go this way. The guy says, "I'm not going that way, I'm going this way." Or when you get in, he suddenly says, "Listen, can we stop and I need to, you know, pump petrol?" Or he says, "You know, the reserve, you need to move." So we want to do something like that. So I just decided, me and Chanuka, another guy who's at that point who had dislocated his kneecap, and he was in a crutch, right? So me and Chanu were basically decided we're going to shoot this guerrilla style.
Right.
So we walk in to the road and stop a trishaw, and Chanu with his crutch, you know, videoing things. And now I'm stopping, and when the guy stops, I say, "Me Moratuwata yanna puluwanda?" So expecting him to say, "No, I'm not going to Moratuwa, I'm going somewhere else." But he says, "Oh, yanna puluwan." So then you're like, "Oh, okay, yanna puluwanda, right, okay." Then you get in and then you cut that shot, okay. So mad love. Why? It's mad love. So I believe, keep that mad love. That is something that I think is kind of diminishing in the youngsters when they walk in, and in whatever we do, we become more of a bank, like a bank, where here it's a 9-to-5 job. We need to have mad love. So I know I'm a bit, I think I took a bit of time, but I hope I got this whole mad love out there.
I think that's a very important piece of advice there as well for a lot of people, because what we feel right now is, you know, especially with the people coming into the industry, at least this is something that I observe, is the fact that the amount of passion that you have right now, and the amount of passion we've seen with people who've come into the industry and become industry greats before, I feel like there's a huge gap, right? So interesting points, Ransley. On that note, we need to take a quick break because we need to go in to a message from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with the second segment. Stay tuned.
මට මාසෙකට දවස් 3-4ක් ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මගේ ගමන එක තැනක නවතිනවා. මාසෙට 3-4 පාරක් කොහොමත් මට නෝප වැටෙනවා. ඒකින් හුඟක් දේවල් නැති වෙනවා.
Periods. ඔබ දන්නවද? කාන්තාවන්ගෙන් 74%ගේ නොනවතින ගමන මෙලෙස මග නතර වෙනවා. ඒ නිවැරදි ඔසප් සනීපාරක්ෂක ක්‍රමවේදයන් සඳහා නිසි ප්‍රවේශයක් නැතිකම නිසායි. මේ තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කරන්නට help empower rise යන මූලිකාංග පදනම් කරගෙන Fems Her Foundation ශ්‍රී ලාංකීය කාන්තාවන් වෙනුවෙන්ම දියත් වන වගයි. Fems ඇය නිෂ්පාදනය සමග 1,28,000කට අධික පිරිසකට පැඩ්ස් නොමිලේ ලබා දුන්නා. 58,000කට වැඩි පිරිසකට Fems මගින් සනීපාරක්ෂක ක්‍රමවේදයන් සඳහා ප්‍රවේශය හා ඒ පිළිබඳව අධ්‍යාපනය ලබා දුන්නා. එමෙන්ම ගමින් ගම දොරින් දොර හා දේශය පුරා විසිරියමින් තවත් ව්‍යාපෘතීන් රාශියක් ඔස්සේ ඔවුන්ගේ නොනවතින ගමන තව තවත් දිරිමත් කිරීම Fems Her Foundation හි ඒ කායන අරමුණයි.
Alright everybody, welcome back to the second segment of this episode. You're with me, Wasaam and Ransley. Now, Ransley, I spoke to Mario, as you know, your colleague. And one thing that he did tell me is that poor Ransley is like a bloody schizophrenic. Una pissek. Pissek killa kiuwe naha, but aar vibe එක පොඩ්ඩක් ආවා when he said schizophrenic. And I said, why? No, he said, Machan, sometimes the guy is always, behaving as if he's, panicking. Sometimes he's always calm. Sometimes he's pissed off. You never know what version of Ransley we are going to get. So because the guy seems to have a lot of personalities, we don't even need to hire more people because we get, all sorts of personalities in the same agency. Right? So sometimes apparently you're saying, at one moment you're saying why the client is so good. The next moment you're saying why the client is an idiot and why we should get rid of the client.
Yeah. So I think I call it an occupational hazard, So when you're in the business of creativity, thinking, and ideas, you always. I remember going in commuting in trains and buses, and I always would think of looking at a person next to me or far away and thinking, what is that guy thinking, and what's going on in his head, and I want to be in his shoes now or in her shoes, So it's always about, I like people, I like talking. I have 1,000 questions for you right now, but then we don't have time to go into it. But I like to get into people's heads because for me, people carry stories which are really interesting. Each one has a background, comes from, they've got a story to tell. So I always like to open the
so
doors
you at the same time, behave in multiple personalities because...
I believe there are lots of people living inside all of us. And if you go to my Twitter handle, you'll know my Twitter handle is called Schizo.
Right.
As well. So this is way back 2004 when I joined Twitter. So I've always recognized that I have lots of personalities, and that's my strength and also probably my downfall.
Right, and as you've been going through all these multiple personalities within your career in the last 25 years, I'm sure at some point you've said something stupid to a client. We all do, right? Anybody. If someone's going to come and say that, I've been in advertising and I never said anything stupid, I won't believe them. And I'm sure you've had your fair share of stupid things you've told clients as well. Tell me one of them right now.
So I think I usually, have foot in mouth disease. So I would have told a lot of stupid stuff to clients. So the thing is, my retention is the issue. So sometimes I don't retain them. It's clients who come and tell me sometimes that I said this, or and it was really stupid and hilarious. But yeah, I could remember. I'll just mention a couple of incidents. Like one was, I think way back we had working on a banking client, Sampath Bank. That was Mr. Damowardana, who is a tall gentleman, very senior. So when I was presenting a radio script, which is I always get into this theatrical mode, and you do a performance, and I see.
I think I witnessed some of those.
I see the client nodding off because this was post-prandial or after lunch, and you usually feel a little sleepy, so you're nodding off. So to get his attention, I went to the table and I started banging on the table and singing this song and all that, and then he suddenly woke up and okay, good, this is good, really good, this is good, right? So that was one incident which was really funny. And then something else was when I was working on Nestle way back when I just joined advertising, Mr. Rajiv Deranegala, really nice guy, awesome client, very tough, but once he likes a concept, he basically says, let's just go, no changing, no coming back and saying, can we change this a bit? And no. So working with Rajiv for Nestle, we are presenting, I'm presenting in this boardroom and in my usual acting and way. Then we have a power cut and then suddenly it's dark. So then when it's dark and everyone is in darkness, I continue to present but in a sort of whisper. So then we did this and then we did this. And then suddenly I realized, why am I whispering? And suddenly, so I looked at Rajiv and I said, sorry, I don't know why I'm whispering, but this is the effect I feel now. So he started laughing, and it's very rare to get Rajiv Deranegala to laugh.
This is probably why people think that people in advertising are always on drugs, no?
We are.
We are?
We are. Trust me. All of us are on drugs. It could be multivitamins, it could be, cholesterol pills or whatever. I do believe if you ask anyone, they are on drugs, right?
Sure.
But that's different. But yeah, so what was I going to say? So yes, that story about...
Interesting, very interesting. See, I'm sure, a lot of people here have aspirations as creatives to also at some point not just work for the Sri Lankan industry, to also try to see if they can do at least some part of their career with other markets overseas. And you've been somebody who has had the opportunity to work for a reputed agency in Thailand. What are the key challenges that you have faced as a Sri Lankan creative going into another market?
Okay, so first of all, Thailand is an absolutely amazing country, amazing people, amazing food. I remember all my clients, would just come over to me and tell me, please, Ransley, Lanley, because they can't say the R. Please, Lanley, make it funny, make it funny. That's all they'll say. And it's just amazing. And they just like to be entertained. I mean, there are people who like kanabona minisu, they eating and drinking people. So they like that. So one of the challenges I had was obviously quickly language was an issue in Thailand. So I had to go and to a Thai class to learn survival Thai, which was interesting. Culture. There are similarities between Sri Lankan culture. Buddhism is, I would say, something that is really common. But that's something that anyway, I'm very curious. Whenever I go to a new place, I want to learn, I want to know, observe culture. So that's something that could be a challenge. But besides that, guys, if you're a good writer or a good designer and you can think big ideas, nobody can hold you back. So you're going to do fine. And when you go to a country overseas, you'll notice that most of those countries, most of the people there don't like to take center stage.
I see.
They don't like to do presentations because they are kind of a little bit more, I would say, conscious and kind of feel a bit embarrassed. But we can shine there because I think Sri Lanka, and I love presenting, so it was something that if you've got big ideas and if you've got good command of the language, you can shine there and do great work.
Right, okay. Now, as somebody who's been in creative for a long time, you would have had your fair share of dealings with the account management guys, the brand guys, but it's a well-known thing in the industry that creative guys and the brand guys don't get along. Right? I'm sure you've had your fair share as well. I want to understand why that is.
Well, I hope, I think when way back in advertising, there was this early 2000, late 90s. I guess that whole, creative and brands, there was a lot more friction or tension. But I do believe the last couple of years or last decade, I hope that sort of is no more, because I remember, I mean, at previous agencies, creatives and brands were best buddies, you know, and they always worked together and supported each other. But if there is a certain friction, I think it's because sometimes as creative people, we question everything a lot. So when with brands, we might have a lot of questions. And also we just, until we get a right answer, the right answer, we keep questioning things. So it seems like we are being a little difficult, but it's not the case. It's just that that's how we are wired.
Do you think you're also difficult?
I am very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yes, I am. But that's the way creatives are wired, because we would like to look at things differently, ask a lot of questions until we get a clear picture. So obviously brands would be more about, we need to maintain a budget, guys. But creatives might get excited, and they will come up with an idea that goes to produce it. It goes beyond the budget, so they can get a bit excited. Then there are timelines and deadlines that a brands person would be worried about, because he or she has that whole responsibility to a client. Whilst creatives take a bit of time to get into that process of, I don't want to settle for this idea. Let me see whether there's more. So please hang on a bit. Give me a bit of time. So there's always that. But I noticed that most of the best relationships or friendships are between brands and creatives as well. So that I would say has changed.
Right.
I hope it's changed.
I want to know your thoughts about the Sri Lankan advertising industry. I want to know what you think we're doing wrong, or what you think we could improve on.
I think first of all, I would like to address the term advertising. Now, I believe that we shouldn't. I do understand that there's an advertising body, but I don't think we should restrict ourselves and call ourselves advertising. I wish, this is just my opinion. I believe it should be something bigger than that, because if we focus and just become an advertising agency, we will shrivel, shrink, and be redundant and not relevant. So I think we need to call ourselves something that is far bigger, which is on ideas or creativity. We are a creativity ideation company. We are an ideas company, right? And we solve problems creatively. So moment I frame it that way, my scope becomes much larger, right? And I have a lot more room to play. I have a lot more business opportunities that I can identify. I have a lot more interesting people that I could hire, and not just a person who is in advertising writing copy, right? So this is a suggestion for the industry. My humble opinion, obviously I could be wrong, and this might not be possible, but let's call ourselves not the 4 A's, but let's put an I or a C there, idea or creative there, so that we we broaden our scopes, widen our scopes, so that we can get more interesting companies who are right now, who are beyond this whole border or parameter of advertising, who are doing great stuff.
Right.
So they can't be categorized as advertising. So I think, first of all, our 4 A's is doing something that is right now by actually coming up with shows like this, Beyond the Billboard, getting people in so that they could share their knowledge. So thank you, Wasaam, and thank you all the 4 A's, president and the committee as well. That's really great. We need more of that. There's a advertising awards show coming up as well.
Yes, the
Exciting
4 A's
times.
festival.
Yeah, and so many knowledge sharing sessions were conducted, which is really cool, bringing back this whole camaraderie,
Culture,
culture,
the
the
learning.
spirit, the learning, and bringing that back. I think that is something that we did wrong back in the days, and we've become very divisive, and we don't. We don't have a platform where you could take a look at all the Sri Lankan advertising,
Right, yeah.
or the great design ideas that Sri Lanka produces. We don't have one platform, so that is something I think, I hope that maybe our 4 A's could put everything together. So that's I think that's something that we are doing right, which is great. We send a lot of young creatives to all the global award shows, which is great. So that's something that is really good as well. And I think we could be a bit more united in certain larger agendas, which would benefit all of us. There was this talk about a pitch fee, where we should, all agencies should get a pitch fee if they are pitching, but there was nothing done about it because there was no sort of, everyone was not really united. So those are things that I think we could really, for the betterment of the industry, we should focus on. We should look at why are we losing people, youngsters who are not joining. Once again, advertising, that title, it just makes it so small and boring now. Back in the days, advertising had that aura and the mystery around it, right? But now it's become, like welding and advertising is a company in Matakulya, they do welding and advertising.
Right.
So it's advertising has lost its sheen and lost its
I think there's something very important, a very important word that you mentioned, that's unity. Right, because I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much to be done within the industry, whether it is whatever you want to call this industry. This industry has a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work still to be done. And I think it's important that, from regardless of what agency you are in, whether you're big or you're small, or, it's important that you keep your egos aside as well and try to complement each other and support each other in terms of uplifting the industry for Sri Lanka, because if we don't do it together, who is?
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't do that, especially, you'll also find a lot of people taking advantage of you, right? Including, I'm not putting clients as the, evil enemy here, including clients, right? So thank you for that, Ransley, because I think that's a very important word, I think, that needs to be driven through to, like, everybody in the industry.
Once again, I'd like to repeat, unity comes from love.
Yeah.
Mad love.
Mad
right?
love.
Be mad love about another agency's work. Be mad love that in a way that you go like, shit, I wish I had done that.
Yes.
But I love you and I hate you for doing it.
Yeah.
That's the whole feeling.
And you also mentioned about the 4As festival. So just before we wrap up this segment, I just want to quickly remind everybody that there is a 4As festival that is coming up. And if you want more information about it, you can visit our website, www.4as.lk. There is an awards show and the entry kit is out, so you can access the entry kit as well. We also are going to have, it's a 2-day festival, Ransley, and we're trying to make it a global standard festival where there's going to be exhibitions, speakers, exhibitions of all the shortlisted creative pieces, speakers from reputed speakers from different countries, and you know what, we're also going to have a few parties.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's some fun stuff which I'm going to ask Ransley. I'm going to put him on the spot, and I'm going to get him to display his creativity on screen. So let's wait for that. We'll be right back from a message from our sponsors.
මට මාසෙකට දවස් 3-4ක් ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මගේ ගමන එක තැනක නවතිනවා. මාසෙට 3-4 පාරක් කොහොමත් මට නෝපු වැටෙනවා. ඒකින් හුඟක් දේවල් නැති වෙනවා.
Periods. ඔබ දන්නවද කාන්තාවන්ගෙන් 74%ගේ නොනවතින ගමන මෙලෙස මග නතර වෙනවා. ඒ නිවැරදි ඔසප් සනීපාරක්ෂක ක්‍රමවේදයන් සඳහා නිසි ප්‍රවේශයක් නැතිකම නිසායි. මේ තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කරන්නට help Empower Rise යන මූලිකාංග පදනම් කරගෙන Fems Her Foundation ශ්‍රී ලාංකීය කාන්තාවන් වෙනුවෙන්ම දියත් වන වගයි. Fems ඇය නිෂ්පාදනය සමග 1,28,000කට අධික පිරිසකට pads නොමිලේ ලබා දුන්නා. පනස් අටදහසකට වැඩි පිරිසකට ෆෙම්ස් මගින් සනීපාරක්ෂක ක්‍රමවේදයන් සඳහා ප්‍රවේශය හා ඒ පිළිබඳව අධ්‍යාපනය ලබා දුන්නා. එමින්ම ගමින් ගම දුරින් දුර හා දේශය පුරා විසිරියමින් තවත් ව්‍යාපෘතීන් රාශියක් ඔස්සේ ඔවුන්ගේ නොනවතින ගමන තව තවත් දිරිමත් කිරීම ෆෙම්ස් හර් ෆවුන්ඩේෂන් හි ඒ කායන අරමුණයි.
Welcome back to the final episode of Beyond the Billboard presented by the Four Ways. You're with me, Wasaam, and we have a special guest today, as you know, who's Ransley. If you've been enjoying the show so far, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out anything in the future. Ransley, now I'm going to put you on the spot because, I mean, come on, you are a creative guy, an established creative guy, and I'm going to put that to the test here on screen for our viewers. So I'm going to try and do something a little different, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to couple two well-known brands. Probably brands that may seem like are completely unrelated to each other, right? And I'm going to throw those brands to you, and I want you to quickly come up with a creative tagline, right? So the first one, let's look at this as a hybrid brand, right? The first one, the two brands are Preeti Condoms and Pick Me. Preeti Condoms and Pick Me. Can you come up with a creative tagline for it?
Okay, Pick Me and Preeti. Happy endings delivered? Can you say that on...
Happy endings.
Can you say that
Fine.
on this video?
We'll take it. It's fine. It's all good. Okay. All right. Okay. Our second option is Nike and Java Lounge.
Java Lounge.
Nike and Java Lounge.
Nike, I understand. Java Lounge, okay. Coffee, just... I mean, I can only have decaf, so I'll just say just decaf it.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Cool. Okay, not as good as the first one, but yeah, it's passable, right? It's fine. And I thought I'll take one of the brands, actually the sponsor of our show today as well, so which is Fems, right? So what if you take Fems and Netflix?
That is the most unlikeliest brand partnership or
Create as a hybrid brand. Creative tagline. Come on, Ransley, you got this.
Gosh, I hope I don't say something that that's going to get me banned or something.
Not just banned, but we need our next episode sponsored as well.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Fems and Netflix. Ladies and gentlemen, Fems and Netflix.
I would say plug and play.
Plug and play.
Sorry, he made me do this. Please don't ban me. I have got banned in this industry a lot doing ads and saying stuff like this. So
Okay, cool. All right, plug and play it is.
Plug and play.
Maybe these brands should actually think of some partnerships. Okay, been in the industry for so long, I'm sure you found certain people intimidating. Tell me 3 people you found to be most intimidating in the advertising industry.
Okay, that is, I think back in the days, clients were intimidating when you started
In the ad industry.
In the ad industry.
In the ad
yes.
industry,
Yeah.
right? Not clients.
Your bosses were
Okay.
when you back in the days.
Let's mention some names. I'm sure they won't take offense. It could be back in the day. It could be now.
That's an interesting question.
Somebody might find Ransley intimidating. You
No,
never know.
I don't think anyone found me intimidating, but
Well, with your schizophrenic personality, who knows?
yeah, but when you work for clients who are, kind of like, say, politicians or, big personalities, that can be intimidating. And of course, your boss, I had the most amazing bosses. I mean, they were just so cool. I mean, Laila, for example, was my first boss. And
So Laila is intimidating.
No, she's super cool.
Then why did you bring her up?
I'm just saying she's
Now, who's
opposite.
intimidating?
I don't think that anyone was intimidating for me. Yeah, in my career, I think all of them were really nice people. But yeah, clients can be, because, for example, people like Rajitha was back in the days
Intimidating.
intimidating. But once you know how he operates, and you know that he is somebody who believes in an idea, you relax, because that's your forte, right? So you
All right. Okay, so fine. Ramsey doesn't find anyone in the advertising industry intimidating. I find that hard to believe, but I'm going to let that pass.
okay.
All right. But here's something that I really do want to know, and of course, being you, there's no way I'm sure you can skip this question, because I want to understand, and I want our viewers to also understand your personal process when it comes to ideating. Because it's not, I mean, people think that okay, when once a brief is given, you just have to come up with an idea. I don't believe so. I think there's a process that needs to be followed. You can't just go out for a smoke, just think about it and come up with an idea, right? I mean, yes, you do come up with some nice ideas, but as a creative, I'm sure there's a process that you would follow. What is your process?
Yeah, so I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think you need a bit of both. So personally, I always tell creatives or anyone who is approaching a problem that don't try to quickly think of a solution, because your brain is always so. I mean, 8 billion years of development and an evolution. This thing here really knows, even before you get to it, it starts thinking of ideas, because it wants to help you, save you, make you, put you in the limelight and spotlight by giving you something good. So I would say shut the brain first from that inner voices of coming up with solutions, and really look at, I'm curious about this problem. This is an interesting problem for me, right? And I want to do more research about it. So the more you kind of delve deeper into the problem, right, and you ask questions, you see that solutions will start to emerge automatically. You don't even have to try, right? So that's the first thing that I would tell anyone. I wouldn't just categorize this as a creative thing. Anyone who has got a problem, branding, communication, marketing, do that. Be interested, love problems. That mad love for problems come in. Mad love a problem, and you will kind of, once you go, into the rabbit hole, you'll unearth solutions. And then once you do that, when you do your research, where you shut your brain and say, I'm only going to do research and identify this problem a bit more, then you can take a smoke, or if you are smoking, I don't smoke, you could take a walk in the park, you could just sip a glass of wine or whatever, and just not think about it. So both of those need to happen, because when you're not thinking about it, your subconscious is doing the work for you, because you've got nice material up there to work with. All your drawers in your brain are now full of little truths and nuggets and data. And then those drawers will start opening and make connections. So you need that downtime, that relaxing time, to make connections. So I would say you need both of it, but don't try to do, okay, I'm just gonna, now I'm just gonna think here, it's a beautiful lake, I'm in front of this lake, I'm sipping something, and an idea will come to me. No, that's not the that's not the way to do it, because most of the greatest ideas are inside out approaches, where you look at the problem and then come up with an idea. Of course, there's a technique where you think of outside in as well, where you randomly pick things and try to see whether you could fit it into a problem and make it work. That's a different exercise altogether.
Right. Okay. So my final question to you before we wrap up the program, Ransley. I mean, you said some good stuff, some good advice. For people who look up to you, and for people who want to be, who can't to join the creative process, to be copywriters, to be writers, where can people learn about being good writers, and what advice can you give them?
Well, first thing is, I would say, like, anyone who is creative and in this industry, once again, I don't want to say creative department and all that, anyone, you need to be curious about life, you need to be mad love about your country. This is the country that you're in, and you need to have mad love. I mean, one thing I ask people when youngsters is, I ask them to name 10 things that they love about this country, and most of them can't, right? So if you don't have mad love about your country, then you don't have mad love about your people, right? And if you don't have mad love about people, how can you be curious to even approach them and talk to them and understand what they're going through, right? So we need to be, once again, we need to be with the people. We need to be, when we go into, have we gone into a cyber kade or a tea shop? When you go in, have you spoken to the guy who is serving the tea and asked him, hey, where are you from? How's business? How are you doing? When you sit in a trishaw, speak to the guy and say, what's the story out there? How are you doing? How's business like? That's where, that's the mad love that we need to have.
Understand.
If you are a writer, designer, media person, finance, in the industry, brand, strategic thinking, or thinker, whatever, you need to have mad love about your country, about your people, and be curious to talk to them, to understand what they're going through. So that's my advice. While crafting and learning about copywriting, I would recommend you to list out the top 20 greatest books. If you are a writer, this is what I did, right? The bucket list of 20 books that you must read before you die, and then read all of them in a year, So that will really help you. Books like Hey Whipple Squeeze This, Hey Whipple Squeeze This. Check that out, read those books. Cutting Edge Print, these are the books that I read. The copybook, if you are into more specifically focused writing, developing writing, how to think strategically, all of that, these things helped me. But don't forget, you can be a good writer, but if you don't have mad love about the country and the people, or where you are at and where you live, you're not going to make connections that are just amazingly beautiful and given by God himself.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Ransley. I think there's some great stuff there which people can take out of this episode. So thank you very much. It's been lovely having you here.
Thanks a lot, Wasaam, for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you very
great
much.
Show. And thank you, our 4As. Thank you, Alan, and the committee for starting this off, and wishing you all the best, guys.
Thank you very much. So if you did enjoy this episode of Beyond the Billboard, please make sure you subscribe. We're on other social media networks as well. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So make sure you follow those if you want to stay updated with all our initiatives in the future. I'd like to also thank our sponsors. Our episode sponsor is Fems, our production partner, Hype Media Network, our creative partner, Loops Integrated, and the location partner, Triad. So that's it from us, and I will see you rather in the next episode of Beyond the Billboard. Thank you, Ransley.
Let me show you some mad love, buddy.
Thank you. And that's a wrap.
Super.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.